Did you know that, for a brief moment, Billy Graham, the man who preached to over 200 million people and counseled presidents, almost gave up on his divine mission? That's right, Billy Graham, the greatest evangelist of the 20th century, an icon of Christian faith, had his moment of complete doubt and uncertainty. And the most surprising part, this part of his story is hidden. Very few people know this. Even fewer dare to talk about the internal struggle he faced. Imagine the scene: a young Billy Graham, just starting out on his journey, with doors closing, no support, no money, and worst of all, a deep question in his mind. He wondered, is this real? Am I truly called for this, or is it just an illusion? God, I need to hear from you, or maybe I've been wrong. But what happened that almost made him say no to God's calling? How did he overcome a doubt so profound that it could have changed not just his life, but the history of global Christian faith? And why do so few know about this crucial moment in his journey? Stick with me until the end, because what you're about to hear will surprise you, and perhaps even inspire you to never doubt your own dreams and calling again. The destiny of one man, an unexpected story, and the battle between faith and doubt, of it in a single moment. Don't miss this. You'll want to hear it until the last second. Billy Graham wasn't the famous man we all know today. Not yet. At that moment, he was just a young man, filled with doubts and insecurities. He didn't have the recognition of the great preachers, he didn't possess a global platform, and he barely had a place to sleep during his evangelistic travels. All he had was an unshakable faith, and a burning desire to know if he was truly fulfilling the purpose he felt called to. In 1949, Billy was at a pivotal point in his journey. He had to make a decision that would change everything: continue or quit. The answer seemed blurry, distant, and the weight of doubt was consuming him. It all started with a conversation many might consider insignificant, but for Billy it was decisive. He was talking to a friend, a fellow minister, Chuck Templeton. Chuck was a gifted, brilliant preacher with a liberal view of the scriptures and a promising future. He was the type of person who could influence Billy forever. During their conversation, Chuck said something Billy would never forget. "Do you really believe the Bible is the Word of God? Don't you see the contradictions? Maybe you're wasting your time with this." Those words wouldn't leave Billy's mind. He tried to ignore them, but doubt spread, consuming his thoughts. How could he continue preaching something he was starting to question? How could he be a preacher if he wasn't 100% sure of what he was saying? It wasn't just an intellectual dilemma for Billy. It was a spiritual battle. He withdrew to a place, where the only thing surrounding him was silence, and the only voice was his own soul questioning the faith he had always believed to be true. That night, he stepped away from the distractions of the world and found himself alone in the presence of God. The Bible opened before him. He looked down at the holy book and asked, "God, if you've called me to this, then give me the certainty. I can't go on without knowing if I'm really doing the right thing." He didn't have a vision. He didn't hear an audible voice, but something shifted inside him. He made a choice, a hard choice, but one filled with courage. He looked up at the sky, took a deep breath, and said a simple but profound prayer. "Lord, I don't understand everything. I don't have all the answers, but I believe in your word, and today, I choose to trust you, without reservation." When Billy prayed that prayer, something deeply transformative happened within him. It wasn't a moment of grand spiritual manifestations, nor was it something supernatural. It was a quiet decision, yet full of power. He didn't just choose to trust, he made the choice to fully surrender to that calling, without any more doubts. And that seemingly small decision at that moment would change the entire course of modern Christianity. At that instant, Billy felt something he had never experienced so clearly before: the certainty that he was exactly where he needed to be. The fear and doubt began to fade away, replaced by a solid trust. Stronger than any previous insecurity, Billy returned to the world with a new perspective. In no time, the Los Angeles crusade began to gain momentum. And this wasn't just a coincidence. He was now at peace with his soul, and his message of faith was clearer and more powerful than ever. Crowds started to gather. People of all ages and backgrounds began to listen, to be moved, and many, in the end, were converted. Billy Graham had made a decision, a tough decision, but the right one. But, while his story was starting to be written, the fate of his friend Chuck Templeton was taking a very different turn. Chuck, that same brilliant and influential man who had planted doubts in Billy's mind, would soon leave the faith. He would abandon the ministry, claiming that he no longer believed in the Bible as the Word of God. For Billy, this was a shock, but also a confirmation that his decision, even amidst the storm of doubts, had been the right one. What Billy didn't know in that moment, while he was alone in the forest, struggling with his doubts, is that his decision to trust in God would forever change the course of Christian history. In the years that followed, Billy Graham's crusades spread worldwide. He preached in countries he never imagined, reaching crowds of thousands. His sermons became a global phenomenon, and he became the most well-known evangelist of the 20th century. But Billy never forgot that moment of doubt, that crucial moment when he chose faith in the face of fear. He knew that without that yes to God, perhaps his story wouldn't have unfolded the way we know it. He knew, deep down, it wasn't about his ability to preach, but about the courage to trust even when the path seemed uncertain. Throughout his life, Biily would touch millions of lives. But there was something he always said, something that now seems even more significant. God never asks you to understand everything. He just asks you to trust. And that's exactly what Biily did. He trusted. Even in the midst of the greatest doubts, he trusted. Now let's return to Chuck Templeton, the man who helped Biily question his faith, the man who, years later, walked away from religion and the Bible. Chuck spent the last years of his life regretting the decision he made. In an interview, he confessed, "I still believe in Jesus. I just couldn't keep going, but I know that, deep down, he is the answer." Irony, isn't it? Chuck Templeton was the one who made Biily question his faith. But it was Billy Graham who brought hope and light to millions, while Chuck ended up on a path of regret.